Hello and welcome back to another episode of After the Whistle. It's Monday, March 27th, and I'm Maitland Moselle.
And I'm Jacob Hunting. In tonight's episode, we will recap last week's GVSU lacrosse, baseball, and softball action.
We'll also recap a wild weekend of college basketball as 4 schools punch their ticket for the Final Four. On Wednesday, GVSU women's lacrosse hosted number 2 ranked Lindenwood in their first home game of the year. GVSU fell short 14-6. On Sunday, Grand Valley traveled to Sparks, Maryland to take on 7th ranked Rollins College. Unfortunately, the Lakers couldn't come away with the victory, falling 16-10.
On Saturday, the men's club lacrosse team hosted Dayton and were able to cruise through by a score of 14-9. The men's club team is ranked 3rd in the Central Collegiate Lacrosse Association Division II rankings.
GVSU baseball was in Canton, Ohio over the weekend for an interconference series against the Walsh Cavaliers. After dropping the first 3 of the series, including a wild 18-7 defeat on Friday, GVSU was able to avoid the sweep, taking the final tilt of the weekend 12-8. The Lakers are 11-8 in the season and will play to host Lewis this Wednesday.
The GVSU softball team was able to split a doubleheader in Ohio against the Ashland Eagles on Saturday. After taking Game 1 by a score of 5-1, the Lakers settled for a split by dropping the second game 10-2. GV softball will host Lewis for a doubleheader on Tuesday.
Moving on, the Final Four field is set. Number 1 seed Gonzaga plays number 7 seed South Carolina, and number 1 seed North Carolina plays number 3 seed Oregon in Glendale, Arizona to be crowned the Kings of March. The South Carolina Gamecocks are the lowest seed to make it to the Final Four, getting out of the East region despite being only 7th seed. Oregon and Gonzaga are celebrating their first Final Four appearances since the tournament expanded to 64 teams, while UNC has earned a 2nd straight Final Four berth.
The Tar Heels beat Kentucky on Sunday in a nail-biting finish.
Wilson with 5, looks up, driving in, Mary for the win! With 0.3 seconds to go!
Luke May hit a game-winning shot with just 0.3 of a second left to push UNC past the Wildcats. After the game, North Carolina head coach Roy Williams was proud of his team.
You know, we played them twice this year, and it went down to the last few seconds both times. One of them was a scoring offensive game. Today was an ugly game, but we made enough shots at the end. Feel great for these kids, and didn't know anything about this water routine in the locker room, so right now I'm soaking wet, but it's the best daggum bath I've ever had with my clothes on.
To hockey now, 14 U.S. senators have sent a letter to USA Hockey to express concerns about the state of the federation. This is in light of the U.S. women's hockey team boycotting playing over wages as well as other developmental issues. From the letter, as senators committed to gender equity in all realms of American life. Later it reads that the women's team has chosen to boycott the upcoming International Ice Hockey Federation World Championship Games, citing faltering negotiations with USA Hockey regarding equitable pay and resources. Among other issues, the women note that USA Hockey expects female players to train full-time and compete throughout the year, yet pays them only $6,000 every 4 years, an amount that would put them far below the poverty line. The women's team is in the process of negotiating a 4-year contract with USA Hockey that includes appropriate compensation. And you can find the full letter on After the Whistle's Twitter.
In the NFL, the Oakland Raiders are officially approved to move to Las Vegas. League owners approved 31-1 to approve, with Miami being the only team against. Raiders owner Mark Davis says he plans to keep the team for at least the next 2 seasons, as the Las Vegas stadium will not be open until 2020.
We just finished a very important discussion regarding the relocation proposal by the Raiders, which our owners approved overwhelmingly. You know that our goal is to have 32 stable franchises for each of those teams and also the league. We work very hard and never want to see a relocation of a franchise. That means exhausting our options and doing everything we possibly can to get a solution in the existing market. As you know, there's been a stadium situation in Oakland that we felt needed to be addressed. I think even our friends in Oakland agree that it needed to be resolved for the long-term issue of the team and, frankly, the community. And this has been an issue for well over a decade.
Staying in the NFL, former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick remains unsigned. After the whistle, reporter Arpan Lopo wonders why this is the case.
Last week at a rally in Louisville, President Trump told Kentucky citizens that he was the reason Colin Kaepernick remains unsigned. Kaepernick came into in the spotlight this past NFL season for his protest of the national anthem, which he said was bigger than football. Trump proudly proclaimed that Kaepernick's unemployment was a result of NFL owners not wanting to receive a nasty tweet from the president. But let's look at the quarterbacks who have found jobs this offseason. The Bears cut Jay Cutler and replaced him with a contingent of Mark Sanchez and Mike Glennon. Glennon will be making $45 million over the next 3 years. Cutler, like Kaepernick, still hasn't found work yet. That might be a product of his on-field production from the past few seasons, when the Bears have looked nothing short of an amateur team. Kaepernick's old team in San Francisco decided to replace him with Brian Hoyer and Matt Barkley. The New York Jets decided to sign 37-year-old journeyman Josh McCown. Sanchez, Glennon, Hoyer, Barkley, and McCown have a combined record of 77 and 110. None of them have reached a Super Bowl, unlike Colin Kaepernick. Among them, Hoyer has the highest quarterback rating, coming in at a career clip of 84.8. Kaepernick's is 88.9, including posting a rating of 90.7 last season. Yes, Kaepernick and the 49ers record hasn't been that great over the past 2 years, but that has more to do with the team's abysmal management. Maybe Trump is right. Maybe Kaepernick's unemployment has nothing to do with football. All-Pro left tackle Joe Thomas tweeted out that teams don't want to have to deal with distractions, positive or negative. Maybe Kaepernick's protest, which he said he was ending this coming season, was too much distraction for teams to handle. This is despite the fact that Kaepernick's teammates have stood up for him before. When notable moron Trent Dilfer said Cap's actions disrupted the organization, Niners offensive lineman Joe Staley said the locker room didn't feel any of the division. Kaepernick was awarded the Len Eschmont Award by his teammates, which is given to the 49er who best exemplifies the inspirational and courageous play of Eschmont. To me, that doesn't sound like disruption. Kaepernick has also donated $50,000 to both Meals on Wheels and Love Army for Somalia, a project that is delivering 60 tons of food and water to the country. All admirable feats. So, when Donald Trump brags that Kaepernick isn't signed because of him, he might be right, because it's definitely not about football.
With this being the last season at the Joe Louis Arena for the Detroit Red Wings, After the Whistle is putting together a series of interviews of favorite memories from the Grand Valley community. To start it off, we interviewed John Keating, GVSU alumnus and Fox Sport Detroit host, on his favorite memories over the years that have been at the Joe.
I came to Detroit in the end of 1996, so I had been a part of the Colorado Avalanche broadcast in Denver when I was there, and they won the cup, knocking off the Wings to get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then winning the cup. And then there was the dreadful incident between Claude Lemieux and Chris Draper, and that preceded Colorado advancing. And so when I got the job in Detroit, they took me into the Red Wings dressing room, and they took me around to some of the guys to introduce the new guy to them. And Chris Draper is a really nice guy, and he said to me, "Where are you coming from?" And I said, "I can't tell you." And we laughed, and I ended up telling him, and so he only held that against me for a little while. But so I, the team that I was covering in Denver won the cup in 96, and then the Wings won in 97 and 98. And so I've told people that I thought I was the lucky charm there for a while. But it was really cool just to see the city sort of take off. People had felt it was coming, but my timing was such that I got there and they won the first cup in 42 years. And, the parties and covering the parades and everything that was attached to it. And just the sense of relief that the whole city was feeling was great fun. Those are the memories. And more often than not, you just get to know the people and you get to see some things. And it's not the most comfortable building, but the sense of history that exists there, and to see Gordie Howe walking around. I got to know him a little bit, but here's the greatest player of all time, certainly until Wayne Gretzky happened along, and just to see the great Gordie Howe walking around Joe Louis Arena when when I was working there was something I'll tell my grandkids about.
That's all for tonight's show. Join us again next week for more on Grand Valley sports and much more. I'm Maitland Moselle.
And I'm Jacob Hunting. All game, all season, always on After the Whistle.